Rivers and valleys. Rivers are dynamic features of the landscape that change in character as they flow from their source in the highlands to their mouth at the sea. Understanding how rivers and the valleys they carve evolve is essential in geography. As a river flows downstream from its source to its mouth, its characteristics change. This is because the energy of the river and the landscape it moves through vary significantly from the upper course to the lower course. Upper course, source. The river is usually narrow, shallow, and fast-flowing. The water has a lot of energy, so it erodes the landscape through vertical erosion, cutting down into the bedrock and creating steep-sided V-shaped valleys. Middle course. The river becomes wider and deeper as more water from tributaries joins it. The flow of the river slows slightly, and the river starts to erode more sideways, lateral erosion, widening the valley. Meanders, or large bends in the river, start to form, and the valley becomes broader with gentler slopes. Lower course. The river is at its widest, deepest, and slowest moving. The landscape is generally flat, and the river deposits more sediment than it erodes, leading to the formation of features like floodplains and deltas. The river often ends in an estuary where it meets the sea, where the fresh water mixes with salt water. A valley cross profile shows a slice across a valley, giving us insight into its shape at different stages of the river's course. Upper course, V-shaped valley. The valley is narrow with steep sides, forming a V shape. This is because the river is mainly cutting downwards, eroding vertically into the landscape. The river occupies most of the valley floor, and there is little flat land beside the river. Middle course, U-shaped or open valley. As the river erodes laterally, the valley becomes wider and flatter at the bottom, forming more of a U-shape or open valley. The valley sides are less steep, and there is more flat land on either side of the river, known as a floodplain. Lower course, wide valley and floodplain. The valley is very wide and flat, with a broad floodplain on either side of the river. The river meanders across this floodplain, creating large looping bends. During floods, the river can spread out over this flat land, depositing sediments. A river's long profile is a side view of the river from its source to its mouth. It shows how the gradient or slope of the river changes as it moves downstream. Upper course, the gradient is steep and the riverbed is rough with large rocks. The river has lots of energy to erode vertically, cutting down into the bedrock and creating features like waterfalls and gorges. Middle course, the gradient becomes less steep and the river starts to meander. The river erodes both vertically and laterally, widening the valley and creating features like oxbow lakes. Lower course, the gradient is very gentle and the river flows slowly across a wide floodplain. Erosion decreases and deposition becomes more dominant, leading to the formation of deltas and estuaries. Erosion is the process by which the river wears away the land, and it happens in several ways. Hydraulic action. The force of the water hitting the riverbanks and bed can dislodge and carry away particles of rock and soil. Abrasion. Rocks and sediment carried by the river scrape against the riverbed and banks, wearing them away like sandpaper. Attrition. As rocks and stones are carried along by the river, they collide with each other, breaking into smaller, smoother pieces. Solution. Some rocks, like limestone, dissolve in the water, especially if the water is slightly acidic. This chemical process contributes to erosion. Rivers and the valleys they carve change dramatically from their source to their mouth. In the upper course, rivers are energetic and carve steep, narrow valleys. As they move downstream, the rivers widen and deepen, creating broad valleys and floodplains. Erosion, in various forms, plays a key role in shaping these landscapes. Understanding these processes helps us comprehend the dynamic nature of rivers and their impact on the environment.